Competition is when two or more species or individuals that are part of the same species are trying to use the same limited resource. So I want you to think about, how are you ever in competition? Could be with your siblings, could be with other students. What are you competing for? Could be attention, could be for um, sports related things, could be for grades, right? So it could be competing to get into the same kind of colleges. All these are types of competitions that you're used to. We like competition in terms of like enjoying watching sports and all sorts of things. When you're in the animal kingdom, competition is all for survival, right? So there's competition for food, for water, for shelter. And as I'm going to include with these two videos right here, these show you competition that plants have. They compete for sunlight. And it's a really interesting video here about how when one tree falls in the forest, it leaves this opening now for all these other trees to basically compete to try to get that sunlight for the long haul. So a couple videos I'm going to attach that I'd love for you to watch as well. Competition can occur when two or more species require the same limited resources, like we said. It can cause one or both populations that are competing with each other to go down. For example, in 1989, green crabs from Europe found their way to San Francisco Bay. These crabs started eating up the clams in the bay. Okay. The local yellow shore crabs now found it very hard to eat clams to find those clams. So since 1989, the yellow shore crab population has now gone down 90% in some areas. So now this creature is now at risk of extinction because the other species is just basically more equipped to eat that. So some people call that an invasive species when they come in and they eat everything. But other people just say that that is just, Darwin's survival of the fittest at work right here. And that that's what happens. You go extinct if you're not able to compete adequately. Now, symbiosis is a close, long-term association between two or more species. There is a predator, right? A predator is an organism that eats other organisms. And then there's a prey, an organism that is eaten by other organisms. So we can see down here is the frog eating the fly. And obviously it's in that particular fly's best interest if he does not get eaten so that he can survive, pass on its genes to its next generation, hence kind of the point of most life. However, if there are too many in a population, it can really harm that. And we talked about that already with how when the reindeers did not have any natural predators, how it really was bad for them long term. And this video down here is one of my favorite videos I ever show. It's this really interesting story about how wolves, when they were reintroduced to Yellowstone, basically created this whole positive momentum that existed in ecosystems. They almost fixed the entire ecosystem problems that were going on there. Basically, there were so many deer, they would eat everything in sight, so nothing could grow because they ate all the plants. But then just the presence of the wolves meant that the deer had to be on guard and always be worried about the wolves. So they stopped eating in certain places, and then all these trees started growing, bushes started growing, more animals came back than ever before. It's a fascinating video. I can't wait for you to watch it. Really, really cool. And so here we have the bear, right? The bear in this situation is eating the salmon, right? So here's a predator, here's the prey. Again, one kind of relies on the other. You can think of that like the prey basically over time evolve new fascinating ways to outsmart their predators. So they become smarter or more capable of surviving over time. But then in turn, the predators have to come up with new creative ways to basically counteract that so that they don't go extinct. And by doing this, they're almost both just getting more evolved and stronger and better over time, you could argue. So some people think that could be why humans are as intelligent as we are, that possibly it all has to do with a lot of competition and hunting practices. Maybe we outcompeted other human-like creatures that used to exist. There is evidence that there were other ape ancestors and early humans that we may have competed with. Maybe we were just better with tools. We outcompeted them. And that's why we're the big winners that went on to exist afterwards. Definitely possible. Two chase scenes right here that I'm really particularly excited about. I cannot play them on this video, otherwise the video will just move so slowly that you will not be able to actually see it or anything. So on the top right, this is it's called The Hunt. It is a BBC series, and it is a pack of wild dogs that work together to take down a wildebeest. Fascinating relationship that they have there. Personally, I think it's the most exciting chase scene ever filmed. Unfortunately, this is not the full one. It's just a preview. If you ever have access to watching that, I highly recommend it. On the bottom right, this one you do have pretty much access to the whole thing. This is a clip from Planet Earth 2. Most people, this has gone viral before, so most people would say that this is the most exciting chase scene ever. It cuts off a little bit of the beginning part, but basically you have these iguanas that are born, and as soon as they're born, they need to basically run to higher ground to go to their families. And on the way there are a bunch of snakes basically waiting to pick them off. So very exciting to watch. I think you're going to really, really enjoy that one. And then the last thing I'm going to show you is some animal adaptations like camouflage. So if you look on this one right over here, you could see this squid, right? I believe it is a squid. Now look at that. Isn't that amazing? Not only can it change its color, but it can also change the texture on it. So it would actually feel like the coral reef that it is impersonating right there if you were to touch it. And then also, to boot, has an extra, ink that it squirts out to, disorient you while it can escape. So highly adapted creature. If you go over to the left, you can see two different examples of camouflage as well. On the top left, you can see the lion. Now, I don't know if you can see the lion. The lion is sitting right there. Might be really obvious to you. Maybe for some of you it did sneak in. But if you weren't looking for it, you might easily walk right past it, especially if it wasn't making any noise. That's to its advantage, right? It's trying to stalk out its prey while hiding in the color of the grass. On the bottom left, you can see all those zebras. The zebras are a little different because they don't blend into the grass, do they? They're just black and white, not really a pattern that you normally see in nature. So what are they camouflaging to? Well, they're camouflaging into each other. They camouflage into the herd. So if one in particular one was being hunted by one predator and it ran into the herd, it's now safely within the herd. It's really hard for now the predator to seek out that one in particular one it was facing. And actually, what happens is that if one zebra gets bitten and it starts to bleed, it now has red all over it, right? And that red coloring is like a trigger to a lot of animals, a lot of predators. They see that and then they think that that one is injured or weaker, and then they tend to go after those ones. Those will be the least difficult for them to make sure that they get a good meal. So just another really interesting examples of some animal adaptations.